Hello. Hello, hello. Okay. Uh, I'm an atheist who reads the Bible. Uh, my disclaimer is I do not endorse this book or advocate the use of words of this book. I'm an atheist. I use this book as a weapon against itself. It's all evil, it's all lies. I'm capital NOT. I'm not a pastor. I'm an activist against this evil, despicable book. Now, further on. Okay, Mo, you're just an Old Testament bad old atheist, Old Testament cherry picker, aren't you, Mo? So we're going to go with Matthew 5. 17 through 19. Do not think that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. Talk about the Old Testament, law and prophets. Old Testament. I did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill. For assuredly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, not one jot, not one little title. That means every letter counts. Will pass away. Oh, yeah, by no means pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments, there's at least 613 of them, and he broke most of them. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Luke 16. The law and the prophets were until John. Since that time, the kingdom of God has been preached, and everyone is pressing into it. And it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one little title of the law to fail. One little title, talking about one word. Nothing's going to fail. No. One viewer, hi. Right. Uh, John 10. John 10. Uh-huh. Yeah, John 10:34. Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law? I said, ye are gods. Verse 35. If he called them gods, to whom the word God came, and the scripture cannot be broken. The one viewer went away. Bye-bye. All right, that's got the stuff that says the Old Testament counts in there. If I get to be an Old Testament cherry picker, actually, I'm a pinpointer. I'm a pinpointer of the bullshit you won't read. For example, the contradiction video I'm about to get into. Was Jesus the first to rise from the dead? Was Jesus the only one to rise from the dead? Was he the only and the first to rise from the dead? Well, there's other resurrection stories. There's like half a dozen resurrection stories. A dozen more resurrection stories, except for your special Jesus. Excluding your Jesus, there's other resurrection stories. Was Jesus the first to rise from the dead? Acts 26. Damn. Acts 26, verse 23. That the Christ would suffer, that he would be the first to rise from the dead. Bullshit. Contradictions in that. First to rise from the dead and proclaim light to the Jewish people and to the Gentiles. He says the only and the first to rise from the dead. Yeah. You didn't read even in the New Testament there's contradictions, and then there's Old Testament contradictions. I got this on. Pretty good. Cool. Okay. You're listening. Good. Got a listener and a viewer. Okay. Was Jesus the first to rise from the dead? Or the only one? Okay. 1 Corinthians 15. I gotta use the dumb fuck King James Gideon. Gideon is the worst book to fucking read. I was using my NAB and the Good News last night, but sometimes the verses are out of order, and I got this more memorized than the other books. 1 Corinthians 15:20. Not even there yet. But now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. Bullshit. Nope. Contradictions. 1 Samuel 28. Remember, Old Testament counts. Matthew 5:17-19. 1 Samuel 28. I mean, 1 Samuel. Damn, 1 Samuel has a lot of fucking chapters. Okay. Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" And he said, "Bring up Samuel for me." This was some kind of witch. Yeah, she was a medium and a spiritist. Let's go back to verse 9. Then the woman said to him, "Look, you know what Saul has done. Now he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life to cause me to die?" And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" And he said, "Bring up Samuel for me." Verse 14. We're skipping over a little bit to edit. So he said to her, "What is his form?" And she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle." And Saul perceived that it was Samuel come back to life. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed down. Hello, normalizing atheism. That's great. Hi. Okay. Some witch had some kind of magic power to raise up Samuel from the dead. Dumb shit. Okay, that's a resurrection story. But over there in Acts and 1 Corinthians, it says Jesus, only one to ever, the first one. No, we got a 1 Samuel 28 story. All right, we're going to go to yeah, the pedophilia story in 1 Kings 17. So she, okay, let's start with let's go with 17. Now it happened after these things that the son of the woman who owned the house became sick, and his sickness was so serious that there was no breath left in him. So she said to Elijah, "What I have to do with you, O man of God? Have you come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and kill my son?" And he said to her, "Give me your son." So he took him out of her arms and carried him to the upper room where he was staying and laid him on his own bed. Now, oh, that's fucking creepy. I'll heal this boy, but I gotta take him off into a secluded upstairs room away from you for what reason? Why the division of we gotta go there alone? Why? Okay. There's something about oh, verse 20. Then he cried out to the Lord and said, "O Lord my God, have you also brought tragedy on the widow with whom I lodged by killing her son?" And he stretched himself out on the child 3 times. Uh, uh, 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 3 times. And he's doing some kind of magic trick where he thinks that laying right on top of them, skin to skin, is going to produce some kind of magic. Then the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came back to him, and he revived. Hey, he came back to life. That's a resurrection. Okay, the Acts story in the 1 Corinthians story says Jesus, the only one to rise from the dead. This he's molesting some kind of dead boy and comes back to life. And 1 Kings 17. You know, that story repeats in 2 Kings 4. 2 Kings 4. Book of Acts 26 and 1 Corinthians 15 says, Jesus, the only one to ever do it, the only one to rise from the dead, the only one, and he was the first and the only, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, 2 Kings 4. Verse 32 onward to wherever I stop. When Elisha came into the house, there was the child lying dead on his bed. He went in, therefore, shut the door behind the two of them. And he's got to be alone with this boy again. Why can't he just perform the miracle in plain sight in front of the parents or whoever the fuck these two people are, or whatever? We gotta go off in a room alone. This happened in 1 Kings 17. Now it's repeating in 2 Kings 4. Same thing. He's gonna lie. Oh, this is a little more descriptive. 2 Kings 4 is a little bit different. It's gonna be descriptive about I lays on top of him. Then he praised the Lord, and he went up and lay on the child, put his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, his hands on his hand. He stretched himself out on the child. Wow. In a pedophile action. What? Oh. And the flesh of the child became warm. He must have been really fucking close. He must get skin to skin, groin to groin, and all kinds of weirdo ass pedophilia, dumb fuck shit. Oh, yeah. He returned and walked back forth to the house, and again went up and stretched himself on him. And the child sneezed 7 times. Choo, 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 choo. And the child opened his eyes. Hey, that's another resurrection story right there. Supposedly the child is dead, and lay down like 3 times. He sneezes 7 times. Hey, boom, bam. Resurrection story right there. 2 Kings 4. Two Kings 13. Uh, okay, verse 20 onward, where I stopped. Then Elisha died, and they buried him. And the raiding bands from Moab invaded the land in the spring of the year. So it was, as they were burying a man, that suddenly they spied a band of raiders, and they put the man in the tomb of Elisha's. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elijah, he revived and stood on his feet. Dead man comes back to life just by falling down on the remains of Elijah. What kind of trusty ape? Yeah. What kind of weirdo shit is that? He's dead, but his bones are magic, and some kind of magical coincidence that, oh, let's toss him in that grave where Elisha is, and they toss a dead man on top of another dead man, but that dead man comes from life. There's supposedly there's magic bones of this dead Elijah here. And that's so fucking super fucking stupid, ain't it? Duh, I believe that. Duh. Luke 9:30. Here's a New Testament. It's also going to be contradiction to the Acts and the 1 Corinthians that I read earlier. Luke 9:30. It might be 30. Let's start with 28. Luke 9:28 and onward. Now it came to pass about 8 days after these sayings that he took Peter, John, and James and went on the mountain to pray. This sounds really fucking weird that you got to go off somewhere off alone. Now you got three dudes with him. Yeah. As he prayed, the appearance of his face was altered, and his robe became white and glistening. And behold, two men talked with him, who were Moses and Elijah. Moses and Elijah were there. Their two men were there talking to him. Hey, this is way up in the New Testament, talking about people who were like it says in Matthew 5. Matthew 5. Yeah, Matthew 5:27. Ye have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. There, Jesus quoted the Old Testament, and he's pulling the do not commit adultery from the Old Testament. So Jesus was an Old Testament cherry picker too, right? Okay. Now we're gonna go on to Luke 9 is really super dumb fuck shit because I said that these apparitions are like this incantation. There's Moses and Elijah talking to Jesus. Okay. Matthew 9:50. I might have made an error. I made an error. Yeah. Here, I remembered it. Hey, go to verse 23 instead. When Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the noisy crowd wailing, he said to them, make room, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping. And they ridiculed him. But when the crowd was put outside, he went in and took her by the hand. And the girl arose. He resurrected some dead girl. So that's bullshit story in the Acts 26 and then 1 Corinthians 15, where it says, the only one to rise. The first and the only one to rise. Acts 26 and 1 Corinthians 15. But then, hey, he even did some raising up himself. You know what I fucking mean? Uh, yeah. Um, I don't know who I suppose I still got Godless Sewing on, and is my other viewer Trusty 8. No one's leaving yet, are you? I only got a few more verses. Oh yeah, he raised up a dead girl. That's right. That's another thing. Luke 7. Okay, verse 10, Luke 7. And those who were sent returning to the house found the servant well who had been sick. Now it happened the day after that. He went into the city called Nan, and many of his disciples went with him, and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and he said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those carried him stood still, and he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother. Then fear came upon all, and they glorified God, saying, "The great prophet has risen up among us." And hey, he raised up someone else right there. What the fuck? John 11:43. There's quite a few miraculous happenings where he raised up, supposedly raised up. John 11:43. Hmm. Nah, nah. Let's fucking end it. Ups and downs, strikes and gutters. You know, it's going. It's going. Yeah. Say, if you view this and you like claim you're a Christian, something, you know, you could dump your fucking religion.